Hello and welcome to week 3, day 1. This week we're going to be talking all about hand judgment and different things you can do to help your judgment along. And in particular today we're focusing strictly on hand evaluations and things that can sway your hands, not just all about bidding positions and things like that, but just looking at your hand, what can change that. And we're going to cover high card points, length, shortage, total points, location of points, extreme shape, running suits, and I'll give you an extra tool to do some hand evaluation. Anyway, I'll start off with high card points. Now, we all got taught that aces are 4, kings are 3, queens are 2, jacks are 1. But this is all just an approximation of how they're really worth. Slightly more accurate one is that aces are worth about 4.3 or so, kings are worth a bit more than 3, queens are worth a little less than 2, jacks worth a little less than 1, and 10s are actually worth something, and so are 9s in fact. I don't expect you to get a calculator out and remember these and add up your points with a calculator. The main things you want to take away from this is that aces, kings, 10s and 9s are actually undervalued in the current format, whereas queens and jacks are actually overvalued. So if you look at your hand and you got lots of aces and kings, that's good. Lots of queens and jacks, not so good. That's basically all you have to remember. So if you're trying to think, is my hand good or not, look at how many of them are aces and kings, how many of them are queens and jacks. Next thing you want to look at is length. Not everyone counts length points, but this is something I really like to do. Long suits are useful even if you play in no trumps. Like, think about when you play a contract in no trumps, the first suit you often attack is your long suit, the 5-card suit that dummy or you put down. That's usually your first point of call. So what I like to do is for a 5-card suit, count 1 point, and for a 6-card suit, count 2 points. 6 plus cards, I just count 2 points. I don't count anything more than that. But like, if you think about it, a 4-card suit, if your partner's got, say, king third for all these examples, think how many tricks you're going to take. So king third opposite ace fourth, it's going to take 2 guaranteed tricks, and you might get a third if the suit breaks 3-3. Whereas if you look at example 2, ace fifth opposite king third, you got 2 guaranteed tricks, and if the suit breaks 3-2 now, which is much higher than 3-3 percentage-wise, you're going to get 4 tricks rather than just 2. And even if it breaks 4-1, you're still going to get an extra trick. Whereas if you look at example 3, if partner's got king third, you might even take 6 tricks opposite the same hand, just if they're 2-2, and if the suit breaks 3-1, you're going to take 5 tricks. So length is really powerful for taking extra tricks, even playing in no trumps, and it is worth something. That being said, shortage is also useful, but only once you find a fit. So what I like to count is 5 for a void, 3 for a singleton, and 1 for a doubleton. Shortages are great for taking care of losers, but only if partner doesn't have wasted points opposite that. So it can be tricky to judge, but I still like to count the points. Sometimes they work more than they usually do, sometimes they work less, but still worthwhile counting. So the way I work out my total points is I get my high card points and then add my distribution points, either the length before I find a fit or my shortage afterwards, not both. But I do like to count length points before I find a fit. That's something that not everyone does. I do like to be optimistic, so it helps me do that. Okay. On to some other points of hand evaluation, and we'll cover most of these topics a bit more later in the week as well. But location of points is actually really useful as well. So I've got 3 examples here. Example 1, you've got your points in your long suits. Example 2, you've got your points in your short suits. And example 3, you got your points spread out. Now, example 1 is obviously the best hand, and all these hands get valued at 8 points, but I think example 1 is so much better than the others. Having points in your long suits is extremely useful and makes it a much better hand. Having points in your short suits are much worse. So if you're trying to work out which is a good hand and which is a bad hand, example 1's good and example 2 is bad. What about example 3, where you do have points in your long suits and points in your short suits? Now, the issue with this hand is not so much about the length of suit which you have your high card points in, but more about the connectivity of your points. So anytime you've got lower honours like queens and jacks, it's much better to have them with higher honours. So this queen here with a king makes that queen more powerful. Having them spread out like this is just absolute garbage. It's just useless. So you can think this is a pretty bad 8 count, having all your points spread out like this. I checked these hands in the hand evaluator. It actually said the ones in the short suit is the worst. But for me, having them connected, such as this queen jack, is better than just having it like this. I think this hand's just rubbish. King queen doubleton, obviously terrible though, so that's probably what swayed it. But not having your points connected is kind of a big downer, and you want to be a bit cautious and not be too aggressive in that situation. Another point of interest is running suits. Running suits often make your hand way more powerful than the point count will suggest, because it's got concentration of points and your points are in your long suits. So if you either have a solid suit, such as example 1, or a semi-solid suit as example 2, these are really powerful and you should be much more aggressive in these sorts of situations than compared to when you've got broken suits like this. Like ace jack to 6, still pretty good, but not nearly as good as if you had, say, ace jack to 6 and a queen outside compared to just ace queen jack to 6. Semi-solid or solid suits are really powerful and you want to upgrade those. Other things that make you want to upgrade seriously are extreme hands. And this is when you've got 10 or more cards in 2 suits. I've always been told that 6-4 and 5-5's really powerful shapes. They always play so much better than the point count suggests. 6-4s in particular, I just fall in love with these hands. They just play like a dream if you manage to find a fit. So 10 cards or more in 2 suits, always take an optimistic viewpoint on these hands. Unless you don't find a fit at all, then they're just dreadful. But if you find a fit, these hands are just amazing. So 6-4, 5-5s, play like a dream and be much more aggressive on those sorts of hand shapes than anything that's not an extreme hand shape. I was just going to touch on sort of variations of no trump opening styles. I love to open a no trump. So some people say, should I put a 5-card major into a no trump? And my answer is definitely yes. In fact, I'm open to broadening this even more. So I want to cover upgrading the hands. So hands with 14 high card points and a 5-card suit, I pretty much always just stick into a no trump. Or other hands that have that criteria before that make it a really good 14 count, I'm open to putting them into a no trump. And similarly, if you've got 17 points and a 5-card suit, or 17 high card points, and all that stuff makes it look really good, consider upgrading it out of a no trump as well, because it's too good. So you're allowed to use some judgment. So it's not just, those bids aren't just strict, I have this many high card points. It's, I'm giving myself, my partner, an approximation of how good my hand is. Other things is semi-balanced hand shapes. So when we were taught that there's 3 hand shapes that are balanced: 4-3-3-3, 4-4-3-2, and 5-3-3-2. These are the 3 balanced hand shapes. I like to put some semi-balanced hand shapes into a no trump as well. If you have a 5-4-2-2 hand shape, this is a semi-balanced hand shape, and I'm open to putting this into a no trump if and only if my 5-card suit is a minor, not with a major. But if you've got a 5-card minor and a 5-4-2-2 shape, I very frequently put that into a no trump. Also, another semi-balanced hand shape is a 6-3-2-2 with a 6-card minor, not a major. Now, again, I'm open to putting this into a no trump, but only if I've got sort of good stuff in my shorter suits and not a really strong suit. And that's because my alternative of bidding this hand is opening one of a minor and jumping to 3 of a minor, which has some other difficulties associated with it when it's tough to always find the right fit. So I really like to open a no trump on some semi-balanced hands, and I'd like you to consider it as well. You don't have to do it, but it's an idea. Other tips are use that location of points. If you've got those points located where you want, you can upgrade some 14 counts. Try it out a bit. Don't just follow these rigid rules. If you try things out, your judgment will improve and you'll be better able to distinguish this. If you just follow rules all the time, you won't be able to increase your judgment on when and when not you should do this. Obviously, you'll get this wrong at the start, but I recommend trying it because you'll get better at evaluating hands if you try this sort of stuff. And finally, consider your other options if you don't open a no trump with these semi-balanced hands. So 5-4-2-2 hand shapes. So sometimes you might have to open and you might have a rebid problem of should I reverse or not, and you've probably got enough points to reverse, but your suits aren't great and things like that. It can be a bit awkward. So if you're not sure whether to put a semi-balanced hand into an opening no trump bid, consider how the auction will proceed and what you want to do with that. Anyway, there's some ideas on when you should or shouldn't open a no trump. I'm a huge fan of opening a no trump and think you should try it more, but other people have different views, so I'm not going to force you to do anything. Final thing is a nice little tool to try out and test what hands are good. There's something called the K&R Hand Evaluator, which is devised by Kaplan and Rubin, a couple of American guys that came up with an algorithm for evaluating hands more accurately than just the 4-3-2-1 hand shape. You can find this by just Googling K&R Hand Evaluator. It'll pop up. All you have to do is enter in a hand and it gives you their approximation of points based on the sorts of ideas that I discussed earlier here. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.